I ran out of mugs. So I'm just gonna do like an eyeshadow look and kind of do like a story time. I've already done the rest of my makeup, so like my face, my base, my brows, my highlight, my contour, all of that stuff. So I'm just gonna go in and do an eye look and just kind of like tell you guys some like story time-esque stuff. I'm gonna start with this primer. So basically I live in downtown Columbia, an apartment complex, kind of by like all the bars, which is like super convenient because I can go out to the bars and have a good time with my friends and whatnot. But at the same time, because like I live so close to the bars and this is such like a party complex, there's always like the weirdest stuff like happening. Like I've lived at this place for like 2 years now, and when I lived here sophomore year, I lived with like my best friend and then 2 random roommates, but like one of them didn't come back to school here and then the other one was like always gone, so I just like lived with my friend, and like whole other story time. But like basically over winter break she just like moved out, never heard from her again, blocked my number, like whatever, super weird. But she, I want to say was like gone that night or something. Like I think she was out of town, so it was just me in my apartment because my other roommate was at her boyfriend's house. And so I'm just like chilling, or like I napped all day or something like that, and then I was awake because like I woke up and then like couldn't fall back asleep, so I was awake like super late. It was like 2 a.m. and so like I said, like my roommates were gone, and so I'm like in my room and all of a sudden there's someone like beating on my front door, and I was like, what? And so I go to answer my door and there's this girl just like laying in the breezeway of my apartment, which like the apartment's like everything's outside, so it's not like some of the like more hotel like apartments. And she's like crying and she was like calling an ambulance. I was like, what? Like what's wrong? And it was like Halloween weekend, like I said, and I was like, what's wrong? And she was like, oh, like I busted my ankle, blah blah blah. And I was like, I'm not gonna call you an ambulance, like those are expensive, like I'm sober, let me drive you. And she was like, no, like it's fine. And then her friend like appears out of nowhere. I guess her friend lived at this apartment complex, and she was like, we're drunk. And I was like, yeah, obviously, like you're pretty drunk. And I was like, let me just like drive you to the hospital real quick. And this girl's like, no, like just call an ambulance. I was like, I'm literally not, because those are so expensive. Like I can drive you, like whatever. And obviously like I just should not be this nice to people because it's just annoying. But I ended up, like, she ended up letting me drive her. Like, ends up going to the hospital. Her friend ditches her, doesn't want to come with us. Her friend literally was like, I have to go make pasta. And I was like, okay, I'll take care of your friend, I guess. So I am just like, okay, girl, like, come with me, I guess. And so I drove her to the hospital, literally carried her in, like, piggyback. Had literally no idea what her name was. And I, like, look at the girl and I was like, oh, hey, like, by the way, like, what's your name? And the nurse at the emergency room was like, what? Like, okay. And I was like, yeah, be safe. Never heard from her again. Like, she gave me her number, but she was so drunk that she gave me the wrong number. And I was just like, okay, like, not my problem anymore. So, like, that was that. And then also, sophomore year, same apartment, same everything. I had these upstairs neighbors, and they were all boys, and they were loud, like, loud. I would literally, like, get woken up at, like, 5 a.m. because that's, like, when they would get home from their after bars, and, like, they would just, like, rage and, like, blare music. And there was one time, because I lived on the second floor, I, like, would leave my windows open all the time because I loved, like, just, like, fresh air, stuff like that. I can't do that now because I live on the first floor, but so I basically was in bed. I'm pretty sure I was sleeping, and I woke up because it sounded like it was raining, and I was like, oh, if it's raining, I need to like shut my window. And then I realized, oh, it's not raining. My upstairs neighbor is peeing off of his balcony into my window. Like, what the hell? And so I like lost it. I was like, dude, like what the hell? Like I'm calling the cops, like I'm calling security. And I think I called our apartment security because like that's so like unsanitary and disgusting, and like not paying $830 a month for someone to literally pee into my bedroom window. So I like called security, whatever, and like that was fine, whatever. Then later on that weekend, that was like a Tuesday night, mind you, so like yeah, $2 Tuesday, but like why are you that turnt on a Tuesday night that you literally pee into my window? But whatever, besides the point. That like Friday or Saturday night it happened again. I was like, seriously. So at that point, like I did file a police report because like that's absolutely disgusting. In my room one night, I had a cat too. Her name's Leela, and I had like passed out. It was like maybe like 2 in the morning. I was planning on going to St. Louis the next day to go home to like see my family, and I was like woken up all of a sudden by my cat. Like she was just freaking out, and I was like, what's the problem, Leela? Like what's going on? And then I heard someone go out my front door. I was like, oh, that's weird. And like when you lock the deadbolt on our door, like it's very obvious. You can hear it like even from our rooms. Like our apartments aren't that big. We're waiting to hear if the deadbolt turned, and it never did. So I texted my roommate, but I was like, hey, like did you just leave? And she was like, no. And it was at this point my other roommate had moved out, so it was just me and this other roommate, and she was always at her boyfriend's house, so I didn't really see her a whole lot. And I was like, oh, that wasn't you. And then so I go out into my family room because I was gonna go lock the door, and I like turn around and we have a balcony, and I like almost never locked my balcony door because, you know, I didn't even think to, and I'll never make that mistake again. And my balcony is wide open, and I was like, holy shit, like somebody just broke into my apartment. Someone literally scaled my balcony and then broke into my apartment. And then, like, whole moral of the story, I'm like 99% sure this was my upstairs neighbors, because like I could hear them, like they were awake. It was like 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning and whatever. So I called my apartment security and was like, somebody just broke into my apartment. I'm home alone, and somebody was just in my apartment. It wasn't my roommate. Immediately sent someone, and he like came to my apartment. He looked through all the rooms, and like there wasn't anybody still there. And then it took me a minute to realize, like, because he asked me, is like anything missing? I like looked around, and at first like I didn't see anything missing, and then I realized like I had like a bunch of like bottles of alcohol like sitting on my kitchen like island. They were gone, and I was like, yeah, they stole alcohol. And so basically like the security guard was like, okay, like I want you to call the police, I want you to file a police report, blah blah blah. And I was like, okay, for sure, like I can do that. So, you know, I call and like try to file a police report, and like in the meantime, like the security guard like went upstairs, and the guys wouldn't answer their door. So like to this day, like I still think it was them, because it's really easy to like, because I had a balcony too, to like swing down and like get onto my balcony, and like, you know, when you're a drunk 22-year-old boy, like you think you're God. So like definitely could have made sense if it was them. But basically like I called the police and was like, you know, somebody broke into my apartment, blah blah blah. And then the police are like, was anything stolen? I was like, I mean, yeah, like they stole alcohol. And they're like, oh, you seriously want to file a report over like stolen alcohol? And I was like, no, I want to file a report over someone breaking into my apartment. I don't care about the alcohol, that's replaceable, but like my peace of mind isn't. And they just like basically thought that like I wanted to drop it or whatever, and I was like, okay, no. It was so frustrating. Whatever, like that was that. And that morning, like I ended up just like drove home at like 4 a.m. and like stayed in St. Louis that weekend, and like my peace of mind was literally gone. I think it was like either like the first week of summer or something along the lines of that. Most recently, I guess, there was a girl like also I don't know why this stuff always happens to me, like that would be my luck, but like probably 2 or 3 weeks ago, it was like I want to say a Friday night, and it was like 3:30 in the morning. Like, there's somebody knocking on my front door, and like, as far as I knew, all my roommates were home. You know, I felt like they would have like texted if they would have been like, oh, I forgot my keys, like I need someone to let me in, or like something along the lines of that. And you know, they hadn't sent anything like that, so I was like, who is that? Like, none of them had like any friends coming in town. And so I'm like in bed, and like I'm a really light sleeper, like I wake up really easily, and I'm like in bed, and this person's just like banging on my front door, and I'm like, casual, like totally didn't want to like be asleep right now, even though I have to work and or get up to get ready for work in a couple hours. So I like go or look at our people, and I see like this girl. So I open my door, and I'm like, what's going on? And she was like, my friends left me, like I need help, and like, can I use your phone? I was like, oh, like yeah, like whatever, that's fine. So I like invite her in, and she just like starts just like going off about like how her friend was like trying to like hook up with this guy and like all this other stuff. And I was like, oh, okay, like do you just like need to go home? Like, can like I help you like get home? And at first, like I was like, okay, if she like lives in Columbia, like I'll just do like what I did with that first girl and just like drive her home. And she was like, I live like 30 miles away. And I was like, I'm not driving 30 miles. And I had like no money, so I wasn't about to like buy her an Uber or anything. And she didn't have her phone, because I guess she like lost her phone. And so she like tries, like I thought she like had her friends' phone numbers memorized. Like that was my first like instinct. No, she didn't have her friends' phone numbers memorized. She tried to get on my Facebook and add them on Facebook and then message them, which it's 3:30 in the morning. Like, your friends aren't checking their Facebook. They're probably passed out if they're nearly as drunk as you. And I was like, all right, whatever. And then she was like, I have to tell you a secret. And I was like, okay, like, please tell me more. She's like, I'm 14 weeks pregnant. And I was like, what? You're literally blacked out drunk in my kitchen at 3:30 in the morning. Like, please, dear God, tell me you're not pregnant. And so she's like saying all this stuff, and she was like, I don't know what to do, blah blah blah. And I was like, oh, maybe don't be drunk. Like, what? Like, don't go out with your friends if you're literally like a third of the way through a pregnancy. So I was just like, oh wow, like crazy. And so then she starts like raising her voice, like getting like just really worked up and like loud, which like I get, like when you're drunk, like shit happens and you like kind of lose your temper and whatnot. But you know, when you're invited into a stranger's home at 3:30 in the morning and they have roommates, you should shut up and not scream. And so I kept saying to her, I was like, girl, like you gotta quiet down, like my roommates are sleeping, like this is ridiculous, blah blah blah. So basically I was like, you need to shut up. Like, my roommates are sleeping. Like, I'm not gonna help you if like you're gonna like be obnoxious and rude and inconsiderate in my home. And she was like, you didn't even want me here. I'll go home. And I was like, okay, bye. Like, not my problem anymore. I have to get up for work in a couple hours anyway. And so I like leave her to like go, and then I'm like, thank God. And then I like, get back in bed. And then like literally like less than 30 seconds later, I hear like banging on my front door, and I'm like, are you literally kidding me? And so I am like, okay, like I'm just gonna ignore it, like it's gonna be fine. And then she's like banging on the door, yelling like, I left my phone in there. So I go and I open the door, and I was like, hey. And she was like, I left my phone in here. And I was like, no, you didn't, like you used my phone. She was like, okay. And I was like, here, just do like find my iPhone. And so she tried to log in to find my iPhone. She's so drunk, she doesn't know how to do it. Like, I can't really help her because I don't know her. I don't know what her password could possibly be. I don't know any of her friends. Like, I don't know like what, you know, she like expects from me at this point. And finally I was like, I have to go to bed. And like literally like her friend was sleeping with a guy that lived down the hall from me. So she like left his apartment to come to me because she couldn't find her friends, even though she was with her friends. I was like, love that. Like, thank you for waking me up and wasting 45 minutes of my night that I could have been sleeping. And I had to work like, it was like 8 or 10 hours the next day. So like, awesome. Love that for me. I think that was the end of that. Like, I don't, she never came back after I like went back to bed after I tried to help her do the Find My iPhone thing, and she like didn't ever like reach out, or she probably don't remember. But yeah, so that's the craziness I deal with here. I love paying an obnoxious amount of money to just like have my windows peed in and people bang on my door at 2 o'clock in the morning, and losing sleep over people who like don't even live here. So love that for me. Besides that, for the most part, it's all right. Met some people, met some friends. Yeah, so that was my video today, and I'm gonna go finish my makeup and then I'll do my little outro and I'll see you guys soon. Okay, so if you guys like that story time or like want more kind of about it, like I could do one like elaborating on that whole like roommate situation or anything, leave a comment down below and let me know if that's what you'd like to hear. Besides that, you know, keep up with my day-to-day life. I pretty much just work and sleep and sometimes go to my classes. But yeah, you can just keep up with me on Instagram or Snapchat. Both names are just Katie Karmeier, Katie Karmeier. And besides that, I will see you guys in the next one. Also, because I'm not a professional and don't know how to do this, forgot to mention subscribe, so press the button over one of these directions. Maybe hit the bell so you're notified when I post, even though I literally have no idea when I'm gonna post. I kind of just like wake up and go, I should film a YouTube video today and use this ring light and tripod that I spent $36 on. So catch you guys in the next one.